my name's Liz and welcome to my second Flosstube video. So in this video today I will be talking all about my Heaven and Earth designs. So that's the ones that I finished, the ones that are whips, and then I may put a slideshow in of the Haeds that I own that I have yet to make a start on. So I'll just jump right in and get started. So the first one I'm going to talk to you about is the first one that I started, and I started it in May of 2012. I didn't bring my cards in, so I'm not exactly sure on the date. And I finished it in December of that year, and that one is this one here. So it is a FFO. It is called Kuik Stitch Exotic Ocean Fantasy. Actually I've got it written down. Yeah, Exotic Ocean Fantasy. It's by the artist Ching Kuik, or CCK. So it is tiny, as you can see against me. That's how tall it is. And so I actually stitched this as it was recommended, as it was my first Haed, and I stitched it 2/1 full crosses on 25 count even weave. So like many people have said, it is bulky stitching it that way, but I managed it fine. But if you do look closely at it, and I'm not sure if it will show on the camera, there are patches on it where you can see it kind of go in and out, maybe get a little bit thicker in there and then thinner in other places. Most notably around the eyes, I would say, and the top of the cat. I'm not sure if it's quite showing up there, but yeah. So the reason I chose this particular design as my first was A, the size of it. It was a quick stitch, and B, I just really love the embrace between the mermaid and the, I guess you'd say, mercat. And so I stitched that back in 2012 and just got it framed this year. Just did a simple mat on it and simple silver frame. Yeah, so that one was 2/1 and 2/1 full cross, and I worked that cross country page by page. And if I can, I do have a photo of the back of this, what it looks like, so if I can insert it, it will be inserted right here. And so yeah, that one just hangs in my lounge for now, so I got to find a permanent place for that. And I'll move on to my second one. So let me just look at my last, yes. Okay, so the second one I finished, and that's an FFO now as well. So this one I stitched in 2013. I believe I started it somewhere near the beginning to middle of the year and finished it in probably August. And it is Minnie the Black. So there it is there. Try not to get too much glare on it. So that's it there. So that one is a little bit bigger than the other one. Just a little bit, but I did frame it quite a lot bigger with a wider frame and a wider mat. And so this one I stitched on a 25 count even weave as well, but I just did 1 by 1 full crosses, which I liked a lot more than the 2 by 1 full cross. Just sits so much nicer on the fabric. There's no sort of really thick parts and then sort of thinner parts, because you've got to run the thread through in the back to catch it, to tie it off. It just works a lot better for me anyway. Yeah, so that is Minnie the Black, and I sort of did this, if I can remember, in rows going right down the whole piece and working my way across. I'm not sure if I did waist knots or if I just ended the thread in the back or parking really. I might have just sort of worked my way down, more sort of in the blocks, but in a whole column. As far as I can remember. Anyway, so I gave this to my dad this year because he loves horses, so he actually does have it hanging on his bedroom wall. I've just taken it to do this video. So yeah, that was my second finish, but not my second start. So I'll show you my second start after I finish you the next one. So the next one is one my older sister chose from my first finish of that mermaid one. So if I can get these little corner pieces off, that would be great. They seem pretty stuck in there. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is it here, and it is tiny. So it is a quick stitch. Oh, I don't think I mentioned that Minnie the Black is done by Laurie Prindle. This is Library Fairy 5 by Randal Spangler, and it's a quick stitch. So it's very tiny, and she chose this as my reward chart for my finish for the mermaid one. Now this one I did also on the 25 count even weave, but this time I did parking. I definitely did parking on this one, and I worked it in a whole row of 10 going right across the piece. Then I'd park in the next block, and even if it wasn't there, then I'd park it in the next one down, and I just worked all in complete rows right across the piece, right through it. So again, if I can find that that photo of what the back looks like, I'll insert it here. Okay, so yeah, my sister chose that and I stitched it for her, and again I only just got it framed this year, and so she hasn't put that up quite yet. She's in the process, I think, of changing her room around where her bed is and everything, so I guess once that's done she'll actually get it up on the wall. Yeah, so that was my third start. Oh, and that was done 2 over 1 10th stitch or half stitch. Yeah. And it doesn't really make a big difference whether you do 10th stitch or a full cross. It still gives the same look, especially when you're looking at it from far away. Yeah, so that was my third finish. And then we get into my starts, or ones that I have already started. So the first one, I started it originally for the Olympics challenge, which was the 2008 Olympics. Was it 2000? No, it wasn't 2008. It was the 2012 Olympics. And so I started it on the 31st of the 7th, so that's July 2012, and it is Brigit, Gaelic Goddess of Poetry by Howard David Johnson. So this is it here. Here we go. Okay. So I am actually stitching that like I stitched the Library Fairy one, which is 25 count even weave, and it is 2/1/10 stitch. So I'll show you where I am at on this. I have worked on it this year, just a little bit. Okay. So it is on a scroll rod. It's actually a lap scroll frame, which I don't use very often because I actually have to base the fabric onto the rod, as you can see up there. Yeah. So once they're on, they don't come off until they're done. Okay, so this is what I've done so far. So that top row is 8 pages, and the next row that started there is actually just over a page. So I think I've done another whole column and working on the next column and the next page. And this was a large format chart. So I'll just zoom in there on it. So the first page I actually was working in cross country, and I can show you the back. And then I started working in columns throughout the rest of the piece so far. So I don't mind showing my back. So there it is there. That bit there was all worked in cross country, and a little bit there. Don't know where I switched exactly, but here we go, going all the way along, and then this is the next lot. So yeah, it's not really too bad, it's not too messy. I don't carry the threads too far on it. Here we go, front again. And the reason I chose to stitch this one is really because of the colours, the nice autumn colours in it. And you can just see the top of her head there. Can't wait to get into, finish out this guy's head and then get into the open space here. So I just grab that picture again. So you got his head there, and then you get into the more open space in the distance, and then it'll be stitching her face. So yeah, once I start working on this, I do really love it, but I'm just sort of trying to finish up other things. And so I've already stitched and finished 3 Heaven and Earths, and I finished those quite quickly really, and wasn't really working on much other things. And then I really got into Flosstube and wanted to stitch on other things because I'd pretty much solely been doing Heaven and Earths. So every now and again I pull out my Heaven and Earths and have a go on them. And this Gaelic Goddess of Poetry, so this is how I've got all my floss. It's just on these rings. So this one doesn't have very many on it, and that's because these are used in another Haed, and so I've just separated them off in another ring. But otherwise I have 3 giant rings with the floss in them, in some little bags that I got and made my own holes and everything. Okay, so that's just how that one is stored. Okay. So I'll move on to the next one, and the next one is just a itty bitty one. It's a quick stitch. Just put that on the floor down there. Okay, I'll just find the cover sheet. There it is. So this one is also stitched 2 over 1. I believe it's tenth stitch or half stitch. Yep, that's right. And on the 25 count even weave. And it is Family Portrait by Jennifer Nilsson. And there it is there. The sweet little bunnies. Yeah, so I started that a long time ago, back on the 1st of January 2014, so that was my January New Year, New Start piece. And for such a small project, it is chock full of confetti. So, this is my progress on it. I have worked on it for 1 day. This year I used it in Jessie Marie's birthday sale from Jessie Marie Does Stuff, and that's where it's at. So it is an itty bitty little stitch because it's done on 25 count even weave, and so I sort of from over here was working down in columns, 10 by 10 columns, and parking in the next 10 by 10 block. So I was working right down the whole piece. As you can see, that is the total height of the piece. And then I'm just parking my threads. And then I also have some waist threads down there. I know they're waist ones because I've tied a little knot there. So I can just, once I've stitched over it and right up next to it, then I can just give that a tug and just snip it beneath that knot. And that's what I've done all the way along the piece. So when I've been parking, I have been using the waist knot method for quite a long time, since at least 2014. I think even earlier on my larger piece that I showed before this one. Maybe even when I started that piece, not long after I started it. So maybe back in 2013 I've been doing the waist knot method. Yeah. So that is Quick Stitch Family Portrait. And that one, floss is just all over the place, so there's a whole heap of floss in that bag there. I'm not too fussed about making it pretty or organising it in some sort of way. I do have some separated out though, and that's because that's for my other project that I'm going to show, and this one comes from in that rabbit, this rabbit one, but it's for another project I'm going to show, so it basically can be used in both projects. Okay, no scientific reason to it, just at the time I didn't want to go out and buy more threads for another project, so I just separated them out. Okay, so Next one I started was the 5th of the first one for, and it is, got a bit of floss there. It is by Lynn. Let me just find the cover, there it is. And it is from her Ellis series. So this is the Quick Stitch Ellis. So Heaven and Earth Designs, Quick Stitch Ellis by Lynn. There it is there. And just like before, I am doing it again on 25 count even weave because that is my preferred fabric choice. And it's done 2/1 in temp stitch. And when I worked this, I was actually between jobs. I had been made redundant, but my sister had given me a very large cone of black DMC. So I proceeded to do all the black in it, and I have started and filled in some of the colour. I haven't worked on it in 2017, probably maybe even 3 years, I guess. So here it is at the moment. So yeah, so I did all the black first, and then I was going to go back and colour it in. Basically, when I got a job, I was going to go and buy the DMC that I needed and start colouring it in. Which I didn't do. I haven't really gone back to it apart from adding a few other colours into it. Just got other projects that I want to work on. Just haven't gotten back to it. So yeah, there are a few colours sprinkled in here and there. Like up in the hair, there's a brown and a sort of a crimson colour in there. Yeah. Not a lot to say on that because I've only done the black so far. And a couple of colours. Yeah, I haven't worked on that in a long time. 2/1 temp on 25 count even weave. Okay, and the next one is it's called Quick Stitch Frogs Kissing, and it is the stitch along from the Heaven and Earth, the bulletin board on Yuku. It was the stitch along for 2015, and I chose the Quick Stitch Frogs Kissing by Jody Bergsma. So little froggies. And so I did this one differently because this one is smaller. It's only 225 stitches wide by 106 stitches tall. I started stitching this on 18 count Ada. And it is 2/1 full cross. And now this one is very, very messy. I was parking, and then I did the challenge one where you had to do like a checkerboard pattern. So I've got all these parked threads everywhere, and I don't know, but that's as far as I got on it. I don't know if that's the whole length of the design, from top to bottom. I really can't remember. It's just so many colours, so much colour changing in it. I don't know if it's just that, why I haven't worked on it, or if it's also that I did it on 18 count to make it bigger and that it's 2/1. But it's not my favourite. It is quite thick. You can see a lot of the strands going down that are for parking. That must be the bottom of the design because I don't have any more part threads down there. So you can see them all down the back. It is quite tidy on the back though, really. It's not very messy. But yeah, I don't know, it's just not my favourite. But the next one is, okay, so obviously I didn't finish that. I don't think a lot of people did finish it. Oh yeah, and so I've just got the threads in one of these with the symbols and everything on it. And they're the threads, of course, and the other project. And so they're just like this. I haven't done anything special with them. They're just... I don't cut off a whole 6-stranded length. I just grab one and then push the others down and then just cut off what I want and then wind it back up. So that's mostly all attached unless I don't use all the amount of thread that I've cut off. Then I wind it back around. So they're all like that. And that's what I do for most of my projects actually. I really can't be bothered to organise my floss any special way or anything. In some respects I'm quite lazy, and others I'm really organised, but obviously not with my floss. The next project, and it's the last Heaven and Earth one that I started, and it is a mini, and the artwork is by Rachel Anderson. And it is mini Citrine. So it's just one of the birthstone fairy ones, like how Jessie did the mini pearl. So this one's the mini Citrine, which is for November. Because my birthday's in November, husband's is in November, my dad and my 2 sisters are in November. My mum passed away in November. I just had to do the November one out of all of them. So that's it there. And so I have stitched this the way that I want to really stitch all of my Haeds going on. And it is on the 25 count even weave. And it is stitched 1/1 full cross. So I have done 3 pages in total. So this is what it looks like so far. So it looks really cool. And my back looks different on the first page. So there's the first page. So the first page I used for, it must have been the challenge 2 on the Heaven and Earth Designs Facebook group, where it was stitch a whole page 1 colour at a time. So that's what I did there. And then the second one was the second page I used for the next challenge, I guess. Yeah, it would have been. I can't remember what it was, but I obviously stitched it, by the look of it, in rows, parking, because you can just see some rows on the back going down there, 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 especially through that bit that's like all the same colour. Yeah, you can just see where I've cut my waist knots there. And then the page 3, which is I believe page 4 of the chart, is done the same way. Yep, I can see all the lines on the back going down. There's one there, and one there again, one there. Yeah. So I did all 3 of these pages for challenges. I didn't participate in the last challenge that went on because it was that, I think it was the doing the checkerboard thing again, and but feathering it into the other blocks, and I just thought that's really not for me. I'm not going to do that. So yeah, that's where she is at the moment. Yeah, and so that's the mini version. So those are all the Haeds that I have finished and started. Yeah, so hopefully maybe that helped you out in some sort of way. I don't know what it's like to stitch on any of the other counts for Haeds, like 28 count or a 16 or a 14 or anything like that. I've just found that 25 count really works for me in the even weave. Another thing is I don't grid at all. I did try it on one of my projects, but I didn't like it. I think I ended up pulling it out. I'm pretty good at counting. Once you've really spent time counting one colour, then you can anchor all the other colours off that with your counting. Anything else? Parking. I do like parking. It sort of makes for a neater finish. Well, it does compared to my first one I did, but that was 2/1, so that was bulky to begin with anyway. And I don't seem to end up with the lines that some people get. So if I just have a quick look on this one, there are no column lines on it. You can see them on the back, but not on the front. And I think that's from when you end your thread, when you get over to this side and you end your thread, you're going to thread it back under going that way. So you're pulling that thread that way. And then when you start a thread, you're going this way. So to me, I think that's where you may get those lines going down, is that you're ending your thread that way and then you're starting your thread and going that way. So yeah, well, that's what I think anyway. So I really like working the waist knots because you're typically mostly always going the one direction with your threads. Even if you're doing a full cross, it's the way you start and the way you end your thread. So yeah, I don't think I've noticed any lines in any of my projects, even this one how I worked down, I don't actually see any lines formed going across. No, no lines. And this one, I can't see any lines in that. I couldn't before I'd washed it either. So yeah. Okay, so if I can insert basically like a slideshow of the other Heaven and Earth designs that I own to date, then I will do that here. And so if you saw that slideshow just now, I hope you enjoyed that. And I'll just say if you have any questions or anything, just leave them below in the comments and I'll try to answer them. So I guess I'll just say until my next video,